Hey everyone, and welcome to the Marvel Snap Decks of the Week, the weekly series where I show you guys top 5 meta decks to help you rank up in Marvel Snap. And in this guide, I'll be taking you through 5 decks, 2 of which are from Pool 1, 2 of which are from Pool 2, and 1 of which is from Pool 3. These decks are fantastic, they'll help you get cubes, they'll help you gain ranks, and the best part of all is each one of these is going to have accompanying guides, so keep an eye up on the cards up at the top, because throughout the week I'll be releasing videos to support this video and help you get full in-depth guides for each individual deck. With that being said, if you want to support the series, I would appreciate if you hit the like button. It's free and apparently it's all that YouTube cares about. Let's get started with deck number 1. Alright, so the first deck of the week is the Pool 1 Odin on reveal. This deck is absolutely incredible and it is an incredibly consistent deck for you, especially as you start to enter Pool 2. There's a couple things happening here. The first is you have Ant-Man, which is a great zoo card, and what you want to do is you want to accompany Ant-Man with 3 others. Primarily, you want to play it into the Angela lane, so you can have Angela as like a 2/9 because you're playing Nightcrawler with Angela, so you can move the Nightcrawler out for the free proc on Angela. You've got Medusa, who gets 2 power in mid, and if you play Odin on mid, it becomes a 2/6, absolutely phenomenal. You have Elektra that can trade with 1-drops on the other side, which is great because you can trade with Sunspots, you can trade with other 1-drops, and if they're playing a zoo deck, you literally drop Odin on top and she trades again. Absolutely phenomenal. And then you have Star-Lord. Star-Lord, one of the Guardians of the Galaxy, can be a little tricky to play at times, but if you're able to be a little predictive with your play, Star-Lord will get you exactly what you need, and again, reprocs on Odin. Ironheart is absolutely god tier because what you do is you play Ironheart into a lane with the intention of playing White Tiger on top. This is kind of the core combo here, because Ironheart effectively is a 3/6. Ironheart occupies a spot in a location and does not provide any value, so to speak, but when you play White Tiger on top of there, and you send a Tiger over there, and then you follow up that lane with Odin, you get a tremendous amount of value, because now Ironheart is a 3/12, and I mean, White Tiger is basically a 5/15 by sending 2 Tiger Spirits throughout the game. It's absolutely remarkable what this deck can do. And then you get the Wolfsbane, who's wild because Wolfsbane, she gets the +2 for every card there, and then when you play Odin on top of Wolfsbane, it actually just reprocs again, so it's absolutely wild. Enchantress is there to kind of allow you to have a tech card versus the Blue Marvels and the Khazars, which are very popular in Pool 1, and of course to counter the Devil Dinosaurs that you see in Pool 2. Overall, this deck is absolutely wild. It's one that has a lot of success rate. Again, in the description, you will find a link to the actual deck code, as well as keep an eye up top, because I'll give you a direct link to one of the kind of videos where I talk about this deck in depth. The second deck of the week is the Strong Guy Discard Reveal deck. This deck is one of those decks that actually is absolutely unbelievable. It is one of those decks that allows you to rank up very effectively because it simply takes your opponents by surprise. If you're watching this video and you're playing a Pool 1 deck, you're probably a new player. And the advantage that you have as a new player watching this video is you have a deck like this that new players aren't going to really expect, because to be frank, they're not expecting Strong Guy to become a 4/10. They're just not. And new players have so much going on in their heads that they try to manage the game that they lose track of the fact that that 4/4 is going to pop up to a 4/10 if you discard your hand. Now let me explain this synergy very quickly. There's actually 2 packages here. You have the Zoo package with the Khazar and all the 1s, right? You have all the 1-drops here, Ant-Man, Elektra, Korg, who's fantastic, kicking a rock into the opponent's deck, diluting it. You have the Nightcrawler, which we've talked about. Uatu, who I think is very useful as a new player, allows you to kind of be predictive with the lanes and give yourself a little bit of a location advantage. And then the key thing is the discard mechanic. You have the Blade, you have the Chavez, and you have the Strong Guy. That is kind of like the discard combination there. The reason for this is because the way it works is you generally want to ensure that with Blade on turn 5, you completely discard everything in your hand. So with Blade, you basically trade off a card on turn 5 so that Chavez is your final card on turn 6. This allows you to play Chavez, empty your hand, and actually have Strong Guy go to a 4/10, which is absolutely phenomenal. Conversely, if you can't do that on turn 5, you can make a decision. Do I play Chavez straight up, or do I play Blade in conjunction with other cards to actually knock out Chavez and therefore empty my hand and giving the Strong Guy the 4/10? At the end of the day, it's up to you. I did do a complete beginner's guide on this deck. You'll see it linked up above, and I really do think that this deck is truly remarkable. With regards to the armor's designed to protect a lot of the 1-drops because you have so many 1-drops with the Khazar combo. You don't want a Killmonger destroying your deck, so that is why armor's there, and this is honestly an absolutely remarkable deck because a lot of players won't see that discard coming. For deck number 3, we're dipping into pool 2, and that's where we're going to talk about the Devil Dinosaur. If you're anything like me, you love this deck, and I'm sure you're saying, Alex, damn you for releasing that video last week, because now everyone's playing Devil Dinosaur in pool 2. Well, it's a good deck, and this is how it works. Essentially, you have Sunspot. He's one of the ones that you want to use as a value play on one in order to win the lane with Storm. Usually what you do is you play Sunspot and Collector into a lane, and you storm that location, therefore flooding it. The advantage that you have is that while the opponent might be able to like try and get into there with a Nightcrawler or something like that, the Sunspot actually ramps up to ensure that you win that location, and Collector continues to ramp as you add cards that don't start in your deck, which this whole deck does, because you have Agent 13 who adds a random card to your hand, ramps up Collector. You have Iceman, straight up tempo card, really good pool 2 card. If you don't have Iceman, consider Cord. Then you have Cable, right? Take the bottom card from your opponent's deck, add it to your hand, perfect, right? Procking the Cable. Sentinel, add another Sentinel to your hand, procking Collector. And then you got Mr. Fantastic giving you additional reach for the Storm location. And then you have the White Queen, which does the same, a very strong tempo drop as a 4/6, giving you an additional card and a lot of information. Do they have their Hela? Do they have their combo piece that they want? Do they have their big 6-drop? Well, you find out with White Queen. And then you have the Odin. Odin's an interesting play here because a lot of people are like, hey, why is Odin in here? Odin comes into play because you have to remember how Devil Dinosaur works. Devil Dinosaur has 2+ power for each card in your hand. Basically, the way it works is all these cards put additional cards in your hand, but sometimes your draw just sucks and you don't get enough cards, and Devil Dinosaur is pretty weak. Or you have a situation where Collector, who apparently I can't click on, is also weak. So basically, Moon Girl, who duplicates your hand, might be in a situation where like, okay, I didn't pull my Moon Girl, I'm pretty weak on the card draw. If you play Odin on top of the cards that draw cards, like Cable, Sentinel, Agent 13, White Queen, for instance, you're going to draw additional cards, you're going to ramp up the Collector, and you're going to ramp up Devil Dinosaur while having a pretty solid drop on 6. Moreover, if you want a more consistent draw, you can take out Odin, you can add Chavez, it's up to you. But these are the cards that I think work the best. And I did do a complete guide on this video, as I mentioned prior, it's linked up above, and this deck is one of those decks that I think is extremely powerful in the pool 2 bracket. And if you want to counter Devil Dinosaur, you do it with Enchantress. Enchantress is a 4/4, basically removes the the ongoing effect of Devil Dinosaur, which essentially makes it so that he's a 5/3, Enchantress is a 4/4. You literally win that trade for 1 less mana while completely handcuffing this kind of deck style. So be aware of Enchantress, it completely destroys this deck. For deck number 4, we're still in pool 2, and we've got to talk about the Sunspot Infinaut combo. This is one of the tried, tested, and true decks of pool 2, and it actually helps you quite a bit as you move into pool 3 because it helps you to build an understanding and practice how to handle the macro game of Marvel Snap, which I think goes really underappreciated by most players. This deck requires you to play kind of 2 steps ahead of yourself in order to outsmart your opponent, and I think it's good practice. Let's take, for instance, the main combination of how you win one lane versus a second. Unlike Zoo decks, you only really focus on 2 lanes here. You literally plan to give one up no matter what, okay? Zoo decks early on, when you're playing the Kazoo decks, you're like, oh, I'm just going to contest all 3 lanes and hope to win, right? That's good for beginners. You're in pool 2 now, friend. You got to be smarter than that. So the way it works is you confirm one lane with the Storm. Okay, you storm, you flood that location, and you make sure that in that lane you have Sunspot. Sunspot allows you to ramp up by saving energy and secure that lane. You also have Nightcrawler, which is able to get into that location if need be, while also proccing the Angela for some added value. Moreover, you have Star-Lord. Why would you play Star-Lord, Alex? Well, you play Star-Lord because when you play Storm on turn 3, you're basically jebaiting them into playing there on turn 4. It's a flooded location. They want to play there before it actually floods for good. So you're basically jebaiting them into playing a card there. So Star-Lord becomes a 2/5 almost all the time, unless they just completely decide to give the lane in general, which they might, but anyways. Also note that Mr. Fantastic gives you additional reach into the flooded location, provides you with additional value, and Lizard is great to play in the flooded location because it's very unlikely that they're able to put 4 units in a flooded location, knocking Lizard's ongoing down. Moreover, you have the Jessica Jones, which is absolutely fantastic, another option to play into the flooded location on turn 4 after the turn 3 storm, and it bumps up by 4 power, kind of securing the location itself. All of this means that you basically win that location. You storm a location, you flood it, you win it. That's how that works. You skip turn 5, Sunspot ramps up by 5 points, and then what do? you drop Infinaut on 6. And that is essentially how this deck works. Full guide up above. I did a full guide on this with gameplay examples from Twitch, and quite frankly, this deck is absolutely fantastic. It really does a number on people. It's one of the more predictable decks because they know, oh, they skipped turn 5, Infinaut's probably coming, and I'm losing, I probably got to escape. But overall, it is a very good deck for getting cubes. And for our final deck today, we do have a pool 3 2-lane destroyer deck. I actually did a variation of this for my major meta guide at the launch of the game, and while testing and kind of improving this deck, and with recommendations from Twitch, honestly, we've made some changes that I think makes this deck overall stronger. The first is the addition of Warpath. Warpath is a pool 2 card that provides an ongoing ability where it basically becomes a 4/9 if you have an empty location, which is pretty awesome because you have destroyers. You can destroy things and generate an empty location. Well, Alex, what are you going to put in that empty location? You could put the hood, right? You're going to get a free demon, but that hood is a -2, feels pretty bad. This gets destroyed in that location, clearing it up. You put Nova there, who once again, when it gets destroyed and kind of empties that given location, will give +1 power to everyone on the board. You can also utilize Bucky Barnes, but the way this deck usually works is you play Bucky Barnes underneath the destroyer, so when the destroyer destroys Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier comes popping on out. Carnage can be utilized into the deck before armor is played in order to kind of set up a Warpath Professor X combo. Deathlock, once again, does the same. Also helps you to clear garbage on your side of the board. Cosmo is an alternate win condition. If you're in a situation where like, I can't destroy everything, that'll be bad. You can play Cosmo first and then play Destroyer on top of the Cosmo and ensure that you don't destroy your other cards. That's a good combo too, right? But essentially the major way that this works generally is you do Warpath, and then you, on top of the Warpath, you drop Professor X, which then makes that lane immune to getting hit by Destroyer anyways, and then you have Nova and Hood into the left other location with Bucky Barnes under where you're playing Destroyer to secure the win. Killmonger is also a great card here, counters Zoo decks, really destroys Sunspots, which are popular in Pool 2 and 3, and moreover will kill both the Hood and Nova as required. Overall, this deck is pretty solid. If you want to look for like a couple substitutions, if you don't have Green Goblin, for instance, you could consider going someone like Hobgoblin, although you have to make better use of Cosmo to prevent you from not completely destroying your deck. Moreover, Armor is a good addition if you go Hobgoblin, and Armor's in this version as well, in the event that you need to lock down a lane from getting destroyed while Hobgoblin goes on the other side. Because again, you need to make sure that when you play Destroyer, you're not completely wiping your board out and only winning one lane. You got to win 2, and the only way you save that second lane is with Professor X, Armor, or Cosmo, and that is one of the challenges of piloting this specific deck. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Check us out on Twitch TV. We're there 4 times a week. We have a ton of fun, and I'd appreciate it if you support the video by smashing that like button. Again, it's literally all that YouTube cares about. Thanks for watching. Check out the video down below, and we'll see you in that next Marvel Snap Deck of the Week video.